Oh hey, I didn't see you there. Alright guys, what's up? Fit Nurse Ty here today. Today we're going to be talking about 3 tips that help you guys study for nursing school more efficiently. Let's get into it. Alright, so the first technique is called spacing effect, or spaced repetition. Now this first was proposed in a book called Psychology of Study in 1932 by Professor Mace. Now this technique called spacing effect refers to spacing out your learning materials over time. So meaning the more opportunities that you space out your learning materials or study sessions over time, the more the information will be stored in your long-term memory. Now the opposite has been shown to be true as well. So studying in shorter amounts of time, or as we refer to it as cramming, would actually be helpful for short-term memory. So is short-term studying really effective? Nah, but I mean, come on. We're probably going to still do it anyway, right? So there are a couple ways we can use this spacing technique. The most common way that people use this is with flashcards. So for example, you're studying pharmacology. You made up 50 flashcards and you're ready to start studying those flashcards. What you could do is break it up into 5 piles. So you'd have 10 flashcards in each of those 5 piles. Out of those 5 piles, you would think to yourself, what do I need to study more or less of? So say pile 1 is a subject that you're having the most difficult time with. You would maybe study that every 3 hours, or set yourself a goal for every day. And say that pile 5 is the easy stuff that you can recall pretty easily. Well, then you would just set that aside and maybe say, oh, study this pile every 5 days. So another spacing technique that I use is when writing in my notebook. So after my lectures, after I take notes, I just make sure that I star the things that I have most difficulty with. Now using the spacing technique, I'll go back every single day, go back to the starred difficult tasks or subjects, and then study that material. And then once about every 3 days, I'll go through the entire notes. Now living in 2017, there are ways to use the spacing effect on your devices such as iPhone or Android. One such way is using an app called Anki. Anki is intelligent flashcards, meaning what they do is exactly what I described with the real life flashcards. You can rate the difficulty level of each flashcard and put them in a separate folder so that you know what you have to study more frequently and what you can study less frequently. That way you guys can study the most difficult subjects more often. Okay guys, second technique. This is called the Method of Loci, or mind-palace technique. So this technique uses spatial memory to recall information and activates parts of the brain such as the medial-parietal cortex and some parts of the hippocampus. Now, this technique was known to Greeks and Romans. This technique was also described in a book called The Art of Memory by Yates. So like I said earlier, this is also called the mind-palace technique. Now, I kind of use this technique myself in some ways, and you guys probably do too. So what this technique refers to is using parts of a house or a palace. So for example, when thinking about a palace or a house, you would think about the different rooms and you would associate that with different things or the subjects that you're learning. For example, in one of my videos I talked about biguanides, an oral anti-diabetic agent. I associated this with a grill. So I could go outside and associate this type of drug with that grill. And I would actually physically go to that grill and study the notes there and make a link in my brain. See, this is using spatial memory so that when I think back to the grill, I think those specific drugs. Now you can do this with any part of the house. You can go to the kitchen, living room, bathroom, and you can make up awesome stories as a part of this technique. Now this technique may require a lot of energy getting up and moving around, but that's actually beneficial. So I recommend you guys really try this one out because this technique has helped me immensely. Alright guys, now tip number 3 is changing your mindset. In the past, when I was sitting in the classroom listening to the lecture, I would just listen passively and think to myself, I'll remember this. But when it came time to actually recall the information, 99% of the time, I probably did not remember it. When I refer to changing your mindset, I mean that in that given moment, when you're learning that material, make it emotional to you. Make a connection to you. It's important that when you're listening to the lecture, you're making it meaningful. You're not sitting there saying, oh, this stuff is boring. Oh, this sucks. That negative mindset will set you back further. Now, this may sound weird, but I like to think of it as being a baby, right? Babies are just sponges. They pick up everything. They're always with their eyes wide open, looking for new information, trying to soak up as much as they can. That's what you should be like in every single classroom. I know it can get tiring class after class, but if you can learn this rule and this mindset, it's going to set you apart from the others, and it's going to make you a far much better student. Alright guys, that's it. So the 3 tips I just want to go over one more time. The first one is a spatial technique, the second being the Loci technique, and the third, we're going to call that one being a baby. Alright guys, that's it. Fit Nurse Ty signing off. See you next time.